Southwest Popular and American Conference all about?
Well, the Southwest Popular and American Culture Conference is about um, taking a look at popular culture and how it evolves into high culture, how it can be used as a metaphor for social justice, social issues, political issues. It is not about, it's not about just the zombie apocalypse. It's not about does Kirk have a better phaser than Captain Jean-Luc Picard. It is about these ideas and how we can use them as a base for communicating these other ideas like overpopulation and identity and diversity, numerous things. Um, it's also it's also a place where people who are involved with the arts can share their ideas about things like music appropriation, um, the Grateful Dead and all the permutations of the Grateful Dead, from favorite songs all the way to, the multiple layered meanings of Casey Jones, the song Casey Jones.
Mhm.
So it is not it is not just restricted to a horror, science fiction, fantasy type convention. It is about all types of popular culture, from TV commercials and radio commercials that go way back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, wartime, all the way up to Rowling and Lord of the Rings and Avatar and things like that.
And as I understand it, this isn't your first conference. Can you tell me about the last one you went to?
Well, certainly. The last conference that I went to was 2014, roughly a year ago, and I discovered or found out about this conference from a colleague of mine. I think it was like the summer of 2013. Dr. Theodore Graysick. It was like the summertime, I think. It was a casual situation. And he had mentioned something about this conference. He didn't know if he was able to go to it, and he said it was the Southwest Popular and American Culture Conference. I said, wow, that sounds good. And it's up my alley because I had taught science fiction values class years ago when I was over at Cork Center. And I've always had a fascination with science fiction. And so I immediately sent in a proposal, and I got a fairly quick response. And so I signed up to to do poetry. And that was sort of my introduction. And then that first time, I was going to as many different kinds of presentations as I could. And it was just really eye-opening. There were so many people that were taking a look at these things that could be written off by a lot of folks as frivolous or meaningless. And putting all this time into these projects and these papers and presentations and panels, and you leave with, well, it started out with Star Wars, but by the time I'm leaving, I'm questioning whether I'm doing enough for my community in terms of help, if I'm doing enough to contribute to my community. Uh, so it was really impressive. It was really impressive. And I thought, well, I don't know when I'm going to do this again. And then this year rolled around, and I was invited or asked or consulted, or I don't know what would be the best word. I'd seen Professor Anthony Adaw in film and Dr. Andrew Chen, computer science, there last year. And they had done a panel, and there were some other people there as well, and from our campus. And we had seen each other's presentations, so they had informed me that the faculty development organization here on campus, which is basically overseen by Dr. Allison Wallace, I believe from biology, and said there's this grant available for us to go. Would you be interested in going? It's like I had no plan. I was looking at, how many aluminum cans am I going to have to cash in to try to go on this trip, and it was paid for, and so I'm very gracious for those folks for taking care of that. And it enriching this time as last time. The chief difference was that this time I was going to be focusing on my particular discipline, which is creative writing and writing, and listening to my colleagues from across the country talk about their writing and how their writing is influenced by popular culture and what types of pedagogical things I can, I could possibly learn, which I did. So it's quite an experience. It's something that I wish I could attend every year, and maybe that's something I just need to make plans for, because there's anything there from, there's such a variety of things. They have students like yourself who are working on your bachelor's degree, who are presenting papers and doing PowerPoints, and being encouraged by their teachers from colleges in California, Notre Dame, the Texas A&M school system, University of Minnesota, all the way up to professors like Dr. Ada and Dr. Chen, presenting and talking about things in their specific disciplines. So it's not like unlike other conferences where it's just a writing conference or a film conference. This is sort of like I'll say it, it's sort of like a galleria of different things, of academic work.
I understand that the SWPACA is made up of a lot of different workshops and panels and speakers. Which ones did you get to attend this year?
Well, what I noticed this year as opposed to last year was there were about 2 or 3 things going on in the same time slots. And I think it was the same amount of time, but there were readings that I was attending, and there were other things going on, and I got to thinking, is it going to be a coin toss or whatever? And so there were some there that I thought about going to. There was a William S. Burroughs, Brian Geisen kind of post-apocalyptic panel, and Brian Geisen and William S. Burroughs had worked together a lot. And one of the things that he's most noted for is he penned the name of the movie, what the heck is it, Blade Runner. And so you have that, and I'm thinking, God, I'd really like to see that. But here are these folks that are presenting this fiction that's based on popular culture. And so I chose to go to the fiction reading instead. And, it's hard choices, and it's like that at every conference, but this year it seemed like there was 2 or 3 different things. So one of the things that I was fortunate enough to attend, I actually presented with this woman. Her name is Maris. I'm at this presentation, and I see this woman from University of New Mexico. And I'd seen her last year, and she had done this thing with cut-ups. And it's something that was popularized by William S. Burroughs. One of his most famous statements is, how random is random? And so he cut up newspapers and things like that. And I've done some of that, and I've done some of that kind of work with Terry Mono, lines and notes. We do like cut-ups and shuffling cards and things. And what she had done, and I haven't done this yet because I need a good block of time to do this, but what she had done is she had created this long poem using one line, a classic piece of dialogue from each one of the X-Files episodes through all of the seasons. Each episode, one line. She said it took her hours and days, and she came up with this. And of course, it sounded wonderful. And then every once in a while you'd hear, the truth is out there. And I think that's how she closed it, and I think that was the name of the poem. But I'm thinking, this is absolutely magnificent, And we talked afterwards about her technique, and I'm thinking, I'd love to do that, or maybe I could get my students to do something like that, use it as a lesson. I want to take one of your favorite episodes, give us a line, and use that for us to use as a prompt in class for writing. Or use that as the first line and begin writing your piece, like for the creative writing class I teach. So just that one thing. There are like 3 or 4 different ideas I can think of that came from that, and I've never heard that before. Never, maybe it's been used, but I've never heard that before. And And so that was one of the golden moments of the conference is hearing something like that and getting ideas and feeling energized and creative enough to come up with more interesting material students might be able to grab onto.
Tell me about the educational background that brought you to the SWPACA.
I received my Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing here at MSUM with the emphasis in poetry. And the bulk of my classes are all writing classes. So I'm always fascinated with a new approach. And I guess the one thing that attracted me to the conference that connects with my degree in teaching writing is I like to have some kind of a dialogue with my students, something that we can talk about, something that we can share information about to build some kind of a connection. If I make a comment about Justin Bieber and my students know something about it, then we have a conversation about it, and then I say, hey, let's do this. Let's write about the only thing I can think of worse than Justin Bieber is. Or if I had 3 questions to ask Justin Bieber.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll ask them about a popular music video like the one I keep bringing up in classes. The Beyonce video with Put a Ring on It. And my students absolutely laugh that I'm playing the song and they're hearing it. And I'm thinking about, I say, well, tell me what this song is about. Well, okay, and they give me, an example of what it's about. And it's about the dance, and then we'll talk about the dance, and then that will lead into a prompt about a dance and her dance. And so, there are levels that you can reach using popular culture. It's like Mary Poppins, it's like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. It's what I tell my students, and that's a philosophy I truly believe in. That this is a way, this is a conduit for us to get started. It is like this icebreaker. We could start talking about Shakespeare right away. Okay, and that's fine because there's students right away that are engaged with Shakespeare, and I'm not dissing Shakespeare. I'm not dissing anybody that teaches Shakespeare. But if I show them an excerpt of Star Trek and we're looking at the original series and it's Conscience of the King, and the villain is this guy who used to be this villain is this great Shakespearean actor, and the episode is riddled with Shakespeare, we can say this was done in the 60s, and this is a science fiction program, but we're postulating that Shakespeare is timeless, and that this episode is a direct metaphor of the Shakespearean play. Right. So, to me, the popular culture isn't just bubblegum. It isn't just an entertainment. There's a lot of it that is, and that can be that way. But there's a lot of it that forces us to really think, and makes us think, holy smokes, they're not talking about this argument or this fight between these two races. They're talking about a tradition that's been going on for a long time. We're fighting these people because that's all we know how to do, which could allude to something in the Middle East or America or, So that's the connection to my educational background. The writing, always having something fresh for my students, because that always inspired me as a student when we had something new and something I could relate to and something I could, take off with into high culture or another culture or diversity or a number of things.
Now, there's some people you really got excited about at the conference that you got to meet and really listen to. Tell me more about some people you met.
Well, some of the people I met. Some people that I met that I really got close to, and again, they're not famous people, but they mean something to me. There were some folks there was a contingency of people coming from Oklahoma and Texas, which is, to me, I've been to New Mexico and Arizona, but I've always sort of driven through Oklahoma and Texas because I didn't have a reason. But there's a gentleman that I saw last year, and I saw his academic homies there, and his name is he's Professor Hank Jones. Very nice guy, wonderful poet. Uh, Comes from a university, Tarleton State University, and he we got along real well talking about poetry and popular culture, and so I got to meet several of his colleagues, and we're all excited about the same things, and whether our students are writers who are a foundation who need extra help, composition students or creative writing students, we were all excited about this. So really, really fortuitous to meet this person. Well, as a result of talking with him further this year, there's an opportunity to do something at one of their conferences at their university. Also, there's some folks from Oklahoma who I met who said, well, maybe we should all get together in Oklahoma and do something at this, I think it's called the Scissortail Literary Festival, which I've never heard of, and I'm thinking, but in that region of the country, it's, people from Texas, people from Oklahoma, getting together for creative writing. I'm thinking that would be a cool conference because I know somewhat of this region up here, but I'd like to know more about the literary culture there. So, in terms of famous people, that there weren't any. I mean, within the field of popular culture, there may have been, but there wasn't anybody mind-blowingly famous that I could point out. I guess if that helps.
Do you plan on attending next year?
Well, I would like to. I really would like to. There are many conferences available to writers, and this one seems to cover quite a bit. And maybe I can convince them next time. Can I leave my camcorder in the room because I can't attend a session, so I can go to one, or can they stream these? Because that's really high tech. And yeah, I would very much like to go. I very much would like to go there, visit with friends, talk about what we see, how we can improve our writing, talk about Texas, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Moorhead, Minnesota.